We've got the best wide receiver room in the country. It doesn't get any better than the University of Georgia. That's what wide receiver Dillon Bell said to basically the haters, right? Everyone who's been doubting this wide receiver unit, kind of correctly, I might add, because last year it was bad, right? That was a very bad season for Georgia's wide receivers. And I know people want to hate on the coaching staff and say, they're doing things wrong, everyone's going downhill, but they went after it and they addressed the biggest need, the biggest concern on the roster, which was upgrading the wide receiver position. And that's what they did. They went out and got two dynamic wide receivers out of the transfer portal. And one of them, Zachariah Branch, was able to speak with the media earlier this week. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about Kirby Smart's comments on Branch, what Branch had to say, and continue to talk about Dillon Bell because he's a guy that is still a major player on this roster and in that room. And I know he had his issues with the drops last year, but this is still a guy that they really need. And he's going to play a lot next year. He's become a leader, not only in that wide receiver room, but really across the team. And he had a lot to say, especially about the wide receiver unit to reporters on Tuesday. Here's what more he had to say as it relates to Zachariah Branch coming in through the portal. Listen, Dillon Bell's a better guy than me because if I'm Dillon Bell, I'm looking at that as, this is a guy that maybe doesn't necessarily play the same position I do at wide receiver, but he's taken passes away from me. He's taking targets away from me. Every pass that goes to Zachariah Branch is not going to me. But Dillon Bell said, you know what? I helped recruit him. I wanted him to come to Georgia. He makes our team better. And he knows that he's going to get probably more reps at running back too. And, one of his favorite quotes, or one of my favorite quotes from him was, I'll do anything it takes to win championships. That's what Dillon Bell had to say when he was asked about taking more reps at running back. He said, I'm a versatile guy. I'll do whatever it takes. But here's what he had to say about Zachariah Branch. He said he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. He's trying to adapt to the standard here. Basically saying that, this kid can play. He is a really good player. And that's nothing new, right? Zachariah Branch at USC last year didn't exactly lack the stat sheet, especially when talking about those wide receivers, numbers. But the talent is absolutely there. And, Kirby Smart talked about that, was praising Zachariah Branch, talking about his fire, his energy, his passion. Three, themes that we're seeing in the 2025 season early on. Kirby Smart has preached that. He wants guys who want to compete, who bring fire and energy and passion to practice. And Zachariah Branch is absolutely one of those guys. But Dillon Bell also said, some interesting things about Gunnar Stockton too. He said, I'm seeing a more talkative Gunnar Stockton. He's a leader. I love what I'm seeing. So Dillon Bell, he's ready. He's got a good relationship with Gunnar Stockton. And, I think he's going to improve his play next year because just too many drops. I think he should get more carries. He is dangerous. He is a weapon with the ball in his hands. Sometimes, it just takes a minute for him to secure it on a consistent basis. But Dillon Bell's definitely a guy to know, and I really liked some of the quotes that he had to say. But here's what Zachariah Branch had to say about transferring to Georgia, how he's adapting, so on and so on. He said, quote, what drew me to Athens was the culture that Kirby Smart and the coaching staff have established. I feel like it's a big brotherhood. It's not just words. Some people say, oh, you have to have this bond and things like that to be a great team. But I really do believe it here. They've built it into this program year after year, just being surrounded by a lot of like-minded players, just trying to get towards the same goal. It's something that's really important to me as well. And I feel like once I got into that portal, it was a pretty easy decision to make from there. And again, this kid loves football. That's what Kirby Smart said about him. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. But he also talked about, coming from a place like Bishop Gorman, one of the best high school football programs in the country year after year. He said there was a standard there that I learned quickly when I was, when I got to high school and played early on, that, hey, this is a program that wins and, nothing else matters. It's about winning, playing to a standard and playing your very best, not only in practice, but, on the field in the fall. And that's what they do at Georgia. So, he talked about how he likes that about Georgia and how, he loves to practice. He loves to compete and he likes that his teammates do the same. Here's what Kirby Smart had to say about Zachariah Branch as far as what he brings to the team from a skill set standpoint. He said he has extreme quickness and he's an explosive playmaker that we've got to find ways to get him the ball. Understatement of the year, right? They brought this guy in to make a lot of big time plays. He can stretch the field. He's excellent in the short passing game, the screen game. Just get him the ball. This kid can absolutely fly. He's not the biggest guy, but they don't need big guys. They've got Noah Thomas. They've got Colby Young. They've got guys on the perimeter, on the outside. They need guys who can, make plays in space and make plays after the catch and stretch the field vertically. That's what Zachariah Branch can do. When you talk about a guy with extreme quickness, that's a guy with a little shake and bake, right? This is a guy who can make guys miss and make them look silly. And, he's obviously got that quickness, but he's got that burst. He's got that agility. And the kid can fly. He's one of the fastest, most explosive players in college football. And we said that when he got to Georgia. So everything we're hearing about him is that, he's a little on the smaller side, but that's not a surprise, right? I mean, he is what he is. And he's not getting any smaller, but, it's hard to be as explosive and as fast and as quick as he is if he's even remotely bigger, right? So he's that specific type of receiver. But, he's a big deal and he loves football. Here's what Kirby Smart, continued to say about Zachariah Branch. He said, quote, "He loves football and that's the number one quality you've got to have here at Georgia. You better love it and you better be passionate about it." I do believe that. He loves football. He's still adjusting to the speed of practice, tempo of practice, volume at practice. It's all the things that he wanted to come here for, which is the intensity, the competition, the good on good, the grind, let's call it. And he embraces that. He's still learning. Again, he's not like the freshman physically. They're way past freshmen. He's saying that in a good way because he's not a freshman. He's been in college before, so he knows what to do in the weight room, and he knows how to practice and what it takes to be a better player week after week, practice by practice. He's physically developed. He's a really good athlete, but the mental part of it is what they're working through the curve of. So just being consistent with how they do things at Georgia, right? It's the effort is there, right? And he loves to practice, loves to compete. I feel like I've said that 3 times now, at least, but that's the reality. This kid really gets after it. And so that's one playmaker. You've got him. You've got Dillon Bell, who's kind of a switch knife type of player. He can do a little, bit of different stuff for you. More versatile, I guess, in a way, as he can take carries. But Noah Thomas is a really good player with a lot of experience. Colby Young, we saw flashes last year before the suspension. He brings big playability and a guy who can help you, especially in the red zone. London Humphreys is going through some injuries right now, but again, as we've talked about, I guess for a couple weeks now, the freshmen are really impressive. I was told by someone who was at the spring scrimmage last week, Talent Taylor had a long catch down the field. CJ Wiley is coming along. Landon Roldan has, SEC level speed already. Those guys are really good players, and we continue to hear that the freshman receivers are legit, and we continue to hear that the wide receivers in general are legit. Are they the best wide receiver room in the country? I'm not going that far. Dillon Bell thinks so. I'm not ready to say that. I want to see it. But I know the potential is there for this room to have a much, much better season than they did last year. And it's not going to take a whole lot for them to be better than they were last year. Just catch the ball. Just catch the ball. Whatever you can do afterwards, that's great. That's grand. That's the cherry on top. Secure the football. Catch the thing. That's why you're there. That's why you're going to school for free, and that's why you're getting money, NIL money on top of that. You got to catch the football. And the staff knew that. They said, we've got to make some changes. We have to upgrade right here. And that's exactly what they did. So they've got the tools. They've got the talent. They've got the players. A lot of them are young. And I think that's probably the biggest difference is that, last year you had veteran experienced guys, Arian Smith, Dom Lovett, I'd put Dillon Bell in that group as well. But, just because they're younger, that's not a bad thing, especially when the guys who left had their issues all year long dropping the football. So younger is better in this case, I believe. And again, if everyone can stay healthy and not get suspended, which I feel like you have to say, unfortunately, but if they can stay healthy, stay on the field, and continue to improve and progress, I think this group has a chance to really open a lot of eyes, whether it's the freshmen, whether it's the newcomers, whether it's Dylan Bell taking a step forward, whether Sokovie White emerges, London Humphreys makes more of an impact. The guys are there. Cole Spear, maybe he comes out of nowhere and helps them out. It's a deep group when you really examine it. At the end of the day, they need this group to be big. Gunnar Stockton needs this group to make a lot of plays for him. If they don't, they might be in serious trouble. So a lot of eyeballs on the wide receivers. Dylan Bell thinks it's the best group in the country. I'm not buying that just yet, but I expect it to be a very, very good group this fall. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. You can read more about this and everything else over on Dawg Post. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the website.